Welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. My name is Frank Allen. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. It is Wednesday, March 4th, in the year of our Lord 2023. Tonight, I have the pleasure of sharing the mic with some truly great people. Alison Smith and Stephen Marvin from England. We will start the show after a brief announcement. TM Radio Broadcasting is a listener-funded radio station. We are the only radio station formed for and dedicated to we, the targeted individuals, or what the government calls us, Havana Syndrome victims, and our human rights. We need your donations to keep that 24/7 replay service and all of the other projects running smoothly. Donations may be made through the Allen Institute for Human Rights at aihr.foundation or targetedmassachusetts.org. If you would like to call in to listen, dial +1 518 801-1318. If you'd like to call in to ask a question, dial +1 617-987-8603. Now I would like to introduce Alison Smith and Stephen Marvin. Go ahead, Alison.
Hi, Frank. It's nice to be here with you. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. I know it's been quite a long time, so I've got some ICATOR updates that we're happy to share. There hasn't been a show for some time, so it means going backwards a little bit in time, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So I'll start with what took place last year. So Amy Holm of Amy's Audios travelled over to Belgium to meet with Melanie Vrichan and Paolo Crescenzo, our lawyer. These meetings went incredibly well. She presented her work to him and he understood it completely, and it will be accepted into the courts. So that's excellent news. She also conducted some thermal imaging scans in Belgium in a rented room, sort of conference room. Melanie was there to help with some other victims as well. And she also travelled to Italy to scan some other people as well. And then Amy and Melanie came over to the UK and met with me. We went to Devon and met with Mr. Barry Trower. And this, again, went incredibly well. He basically verified all of Amy's work. I believe that she's going to write some papers, and he's going to help by reviewing them and then sending them out to the masses to have her work sort of publicised, for lack of a better word. Me and Amy, after Melanie returned home, she didn't have much time because of her two young children, but me and Amy travelled up to Cambridge and scanned a few UK victims there. We stayed with a victim whose name is Vanessa, and I'd like to just do a shout out to her because it was ever so kind for, for her to let us stay with her and Amy do her work in her home. For me, this time was very difficult. I'd just had a death in the family. So for me, it just really was difficult, but I'm glad that I was able to go, and these important meetings still went ahead and took place, and they went well. Amy then came back up to mine. Again, we didn't have much time to do what we'd planned because our lawyer, Paolo, wanted her, while she was over this end of the earth, over in Europe, to go back over to Belgium, and this was impromptu, basically to hold a conference for her to present her work and have it recorded, and it's helping sort of like with peer review and things like that. So the entire time she was with me, she was basically creating a huge presentation instead of doing what we were going to do. So then, she went back over to Belgium, and this conference was held where she presented her work. Again, this went very, very well. During this particular conference, Melanie and Amy met some representatives from a Belgium-based doctors association, and we are now going to be working with them. I can't say exactly what capacities yet. We've only had one meeting with them, but it looks like they may help with doing various tests for ICATOR members, which then may possibly be used in the legal proceedings. So with regards to ICATOR, that kind of brings us up to date, except for the more recent conference. It was held on the 18th of February, which is now online. Again, this was very impromptu. It wasn't planned at all. It was very, very last minute. But the lawyer to Targeted Justice, the group in America, was in Europe, and she met with Melanie Richarm and with our lawyers. And a conference was held with them. Again, this is online for everybody to watch. It's on the ICATOR website, and it's on various other websites as well. This went incredibly well. There is to be a collaboration between ICATOR and Targeted Justice. At this time, I'm not entirely sure as to what. I've had a lot going on recently, but there is due to be some kind of a collaboration between the two groups, which is fantastic because they have their legal proceedings, we have ours, and it's just helpful sort of showing a united front between the two groups and other groups as well. So yeah, in terms of ICATOR, that is us up to date. In personal use, I had an appointment about 3.5 weeks ago, and then a second follow-up appointment yesterday. It was vestibular and balance related, and I was referred to a professor, and that's the person that I met with yesterday. This is why I had to go back for a second time. They repeated some of the tests that they did, and they've diagnosed me with traumatic brain injury, Meniere's disease, inner ear issues, and vestibular disorder, all in one sitting. I'm kind of baffled because some of these things I can't tell. Some of these symptoms make sense to me, but sometimes I couldn't tell you that I had this going on. It's almost like it's going on behind the scenes. Again, I've said this before, but it's quite bizarre. I'm half happy and half mortified. But yeah, I had a QEEG done last year, and the findings from yesterday match pretty well what was discovered in the QEEG, which is basically my vision and cerebellum are the most affected areas. So yeah, I've been referred to a specialist for some rehabilitation and various different things that they can do. I've been put on some new medication, which I'm waiting for. And I'm going to send all of this stuff off with my other evidence to another country for a full review. But the reason I bring this up is that this doctors association that ICATOR are now working with, later this year, I believe in April, there's due to be a meeting and they're going to be present. I'm going to try and fly over there and basically speak with them and set up a meeting with the people who helped me in the UK and just try and start collaborating, having tests done for ICATOR members and other people. And while I'm at it, I'm going to tell them how and what needs to be done to get the Havana syndrome diagnosis. So that is pretty much me up to date. So I'm just wondering if Stephen would like to share information about Targeted UK and possibly Tim and his UK legal proceedings.
Yes, yes, Stephen. Let's hear about that.
Yeah. Hello, Frank.
Hi.
Hello, Frank, and thank you for having me back on. It's a pleasure to be
My
here.
pleasure. Go right ahead.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear about Tim's case. So.
Yes. Well, yes, Timothy filed his group litigation lawsuit, I believe it was early November last year. We've got around 20 or so people in the group, and Tim has asked me just to be very careful what I say for obvious reasons, because we don't want to harm the court case if I mention names regarding who he's suing. But the the group litigation case is against the UK government. As I said, we've got 20 members, and that was filed in November. At the moment, we're collecting a few affidavits from victims to be submitted as evidence in the court case. Originally, we had witness statements. Everyone submitted a witness statement, but now we're doing 5 or 6 affidavits. So they will be filed probably this coming week. He may have filed already a couple of them, but next week I believe they will all be filed. So that's the UK group litigation lawsuit. And Timothy has also got a number of other personal cases that he's filed and are ongoing against various organizations who have been involved in his targeting. One, I can't actually, Tim has told me not to name the UK police force, but most people will probably realise who the police force is if they have seen his Twitter feed. But Tim said it's probably not a good idea to name them directly. But he's suing the UK police personally, and he's also suing one of their contractors. And it's the contractors that is doing the gang stalking. And he's got another case against an NHS hospital that illegally diagnosed him when he went in for treatment to the casualty department for a microwave injury. I believe he was getting an irregular heartbeat, and he went into casualty, signed himself into casualty, and they sectioned him under the Mental Health Act when he mentioned microwave weapons.
Oh boy, so, I don't believe that. God.
Yeah, they kept him in for around 48 hours. But as Tim has got a law background, he knew how to navigate the system, and he did not sign any documents, did not cooperate with them. So he's suing the NHS hospital that did this to him for basically kidnapping him for 28 hours.
Now, I understand that he was not able to serve the police with the proper documents.
That was some kind of document relating to his personal case, yes. And the judge had given him permission to actually serve the document on the police in person, but they refused to take the documents off him. So he's gone back to court to he's basically reported this back to the court.
That won't do them any favours.
No.
Is this the same day that the police were saluting him?
Well, they're always saluting him. In a sarcastic manner. It's pretty pathetic, really.
Well, that would be quite an honor. Everywhere you go,
yes.
You get saluted by the police department. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's incredibly brave, though, and clever. He's done all this litigation by himself. He's had no help from a law firm. Luckily for him, he's got a bit of a background in medical law because he was a legal compliance advisor to hospitals and doctors' surgeries. So he does know the medical law, and he's got some experience with the court system. So he knows how to navigate his way through the UK law courts, which most victims are simply unable to do.
Yes, that is definitely true.
Yeah.
I was just curious as to where he is going to go next. I mean, he's got these documents served or not served, however you want to look at it. Now what's going to happen?
The documents are served.
Yeah.
these were just extra documents to complement the original filing of the lawsuits. I think the one that they were acting awkward with this week was one of his personal ones.
Okay.
So,
Would you like
so
to?
it's just a matter of time, Frank, before we get a full hearing.
I see. And could you bring to light a little bit about that recent airing of Len Bears?
Oh yes, Alison's seen it as well. Yes, it was on RT, Russia Today News, which is a Russian state television, and John Kiriakou, the former CIA agent, has I believe it's a weekly TV interview show with RT News. He'll have a different guest on every week. I believe the show is called the Whistleblower, and he has a different guest on each week. And he had Dr. Lambert on, and Dr. Lambert discussed his targeting and his attacks, and it was really good publicity because they mentioned civilian attacks. So, hats off to Vladimir Putin for allowing that.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's done something right. Go
Yes.
ahead, Alison.
Alison
yeah.
watched it as well. Yes.
Right.
Thought it was absolutely superb, and I don't know how to thank him for doing that. It's amazing. I had to use a VPN to watch it because I believe that Putin has banned UK people from watching anything on Russia Today. Yeah, I just think that that's absolutely amazing that he's been able to do that. Hopefully, it will start a domino effect within the media industry. Let's hope.
Yes, because it's called Russia TV, it's called alternative media, but in Russia, it's mainstream media. So obviously, it will have got a wide audience in Russia and other countries. But the UK has banned all Russia TV stations since the Ukraine war. But like Alison said, you can go to RT, the RT website. It is on there, but you will need either the Tor browser or another VPN to see it. But it has now been put on different platforms, so it should be on YouTube. And I think Lember has retweeted it out, and it's on a different platform. So most people now should be able to watch it. Whereas originally you did have to go to Russia Today news website to watch it online.
Okay, definitely. I don't know how that went over my head, but it did. I've been embroiled in my own things. But can you give us a feeling for what's happening with targeted survivors and targeted UK?
Yes, we're just doing the campaign still. If you go to www.targetedsurvivors.com, there's the campaign tab, and it lists various campaigns that we're doing. And one victim in England has managed to get a meeting with his member of parliament, and I'm not sure, has that occurred yet, Alison, or is he still waiting?
No, this person, he said he'd contact us when he heard back, but he'd sent me his correspondence with this particular MP, and it's back and forth like 5 or 6 times, and he's using all the correct terms and everything. So I don't know when it will take place, but he's waiting to hear back. And judging from the emails that they've sent me, it's promising. I mean, he's using the words targeted individuals and saying all the right things. And basically what me and Stephen and Mark Williams have been doing is sort of helping and advising, say this, don't say that, which is all basically just common sense anyway. Everybody will understand that. But it's just really promising. I can't wait to see what happens. I wish I could go see my MP. I mean, I was going to do that at one point because I've got a private investigator, and he's like my sort of best friend now. I see him quite regular. I'll just do a little shout out to him, but I'm not going to use his name or anything. But I believe that he knows my own local MP, and that he might have met with this MP before. So at some point, I might try and do that, because I haven't done it yet out of fear of what might come to me, because I've already got a lot of negative things on my medical records as a result of all this targeting. But yeah, I can't wait to see how that turns out. Yeah.
I actually got acknowledgement from my Member of Parliament, Frank, when I reported what happened to me to him. And to his credit, he accepted what I said. And in the letter back to me, he said, "I'm sorry you're a victim of electronic harassment and organised stalking," which was pretty good to get a reply like that.
Most definitely.
Yeah. He did also, last year, he offered to launch an investigation into what happened to me with regards to the police entrapment operation they did. But Timothy advised me that it would probably be a waste of time, because the police are just going to lie anyway. So what's the point, really? They can lie to a Member of Parliament and they would probably not even get any comeback if they got caught. But the best way to go about it, Tim said, is to get them in court eventually, whereas their testimony then is under oath, and if they get caught lying, they'll be in big trouble. So
how is perjury treated in England?
Well, it's a prison sentence. Yeah, I'm not sure the length, but at the moment I've put everything in a sworn affidavit. I've given it to Tim for him to file in the lawsuit, and I've put in the affidavit that the police launched an entrapment operation against me and sectioned me, and I've accused them of lying. So let them. Hopefully, we may be able to get them in court and see what happens there, because I'm 100% confident that they can't. The thing is, if I lie on an affidavit, I could get, I think it's a 3-year minimum prison sentence for lying on an affidavit. So let the police disprove what I say about them.
Yes.
I mean, basically, they need to come up with a name. You're familiar with the story, aren't you? After I sent the affidavit to Catherine Horton for her case against MI5, within a week, I had a knock at the door, and there were police officers and NHS staff came into my house, sectioned me, claiming that a member of the public had reported me for brandishing a gun at them. They refused to name the person who did it. I've tried to get the information from them. They just won't reveal the name. And in my opinion, it was just an entrapment operation to discredit me as a witness for Catherine Horton's case, and also to discredit her case as well. On the same night, they sectioned me as well. They sectioned me at approximately 3:00 in the afternoon, and they came back to my mum's house, NHS and police, threatening to section her as well. They came at midnight to a 80-year-old woman's house.
Stephen,
that's disgusting.
You got a phone call from the mental health charity Mind?
Oh, yes.
Before, didn't you?
Yes, this was quite funny. 3 days before the sectioning happened, I got a phone call, and it was from someone from an organisation called Mind. It's a mental health charity based in the UK. It's got various branches in all facts. It is. It's called Mind. And the gentleman who phoned me said, "We're just returning your phone call." And I said to him, "Regarding what? I've never phoned you." Basically, I think they were just playing games with me a few days before the sectioning.
They were probably trying to gate you into something, get you
Yes,
riled up.
yes, yeah.
And
And I looked at my phone, my online phone record with my telephone supplier, and I never made a phone call to Mind. Yeah, they said they were returning my phone call. So obviously someone phoned it up. Phoned obviously someone phoned up Mind pretending to be me, and they returned the call. But again, it was just silly, petty harassment nonsense.
well, we have a lot
But
of that going around.
yes, but it was very suspicious. It happened a few days before the sectioning.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that when you take an affidavit with you
Yes,
to the courtroom, that is a live witness
yes,
to the
that's
courts.
correct.
So
Yes,
Catherine Horton had thousands of
yes,
affidavits, and I guess that Tim has what, 6 or 7 or 8 or more.
yes, yes.
That's
Got
plenty.
got about 20 witness statements and 5 or 6 affidavits.
Well, that's fantastic. Then I don't think that he can lose that. It seems that
Yeah,
he is a very bright individual, having much knowledge concerning the legal system, for sure.
definitely. Yes, and he's got a good background in science as well. He's got a master's degree in chemistry,
Okay,
so he understands the weapons.
right. I was just curious. Have you, in fact, organized every TI in England? Have you, or I mean, the entire UK? How many? I know we've gone over it, but how many do you feel that you are in actual contact with all the time?
Well, on the website, uh, we've got about, I would say, is it about 1,500 members, Alison,
There's, there's
approximately?
about there's about 1,500, and then whenever I'm doing an email marketing campaign, there's a lesser amount that state that they're active. But I think it's internationally. In terms of how many UK victims there are, I think you will know that information more so than me, Stephen, because I know that you've been going through this a lot longer than me. I've met uh, quite a few. I don't know, maybe 100, but there's definitely more than that, isn't there?
I would say so, yes. As a rough estimate, I would say it's between 10 and 20,000. The number of people who actually realise that they're targeted, but possibly it's even a lot higher because a lot of people will just not realise what's happening to them.
That's
Probably,
exactly what.
yes, probably the mental
Um,
hospitals are full of targets who just don't
yeah,
realise that they've been attacked.
I think I've said this before, but maybe not on a show. But I remember quite a few years ago, I watched a Louis Theroux documentary. Louis Theroux, for those who don't know, is a very famous documentarian, privately and mainly for the BBC. He was lucky enough to get a camera crew into a forensic psychiatry wing in America, where it's a hell of a lot more stricter in America and Australia than it is in the UK. And it's very rare that a camera crew gets to go into one of these places. So forensic psychiatry is where it's a mental patient, but they've committed a serious crime. And I watched it before I was a victim, and I didn't pay any mind to it. I thought they were mentally ill people. But I've rewatched it. I rewatched it last year, and I'm 100% certain that at least 2 or 3 of the people that appear in this documentary of the patients there our victims. There's this one particular man who's basically saying, well, I never had any problems. I always worked. I was absolutely fine. And then one day, out of the blue, I started hearing these voices. It got worse and worse and worse. They were saying things about my mum not being the person that I think she is. And then he says that one day, his mum's face went all sort of distorted visually, and her voice changed to that of a demon. And he freaked out and he killed her. And he's been in this hospital ever since. There's another elder lady in it who, if I recall correctly, she's talking about, I hear voices, and it's basically the CIA telling me that I'm in an experimentation program. And because she will not admit I'm mentally ill, she's adamant that this is actually happening. They will never let her leave, never. I believe that she had been sort of coerced verbally by a V2K into stabbing somebody in the neck with a pair of scissors on a bus. So I reckon there's a lot of people who don't know that they are. I've said this before as well, but Amy was kind enough to check a file for me, and this has been happening to me a lot longer than when I became aware of it, and I had no idea. So I assumed that I was simply just being monitored and possibly live streamed. So, yeah.
You know, you see these ghost stories on television, and you have to think, God, do these poor people have V2K? You know, because they're hearing voices, and that seems to be the balance of it.
It's highly likely, yes.
Yeah, so a lot of these ghost stories could be disproven quite easily.
The arrogance of these people, though, Frank, these psychiatrists, it really makes me sick. Just not willing to listen to another point of view. It's arrogance beyond belief. Especially the one that sectioned me, Dr. Amy Harford. Really horrible person, arrogant.
And there was no reasoning behind any of this. It was all manufactured just to get you sectioned and try and blemish your record.
Yes, because as soon as I got targeted, I called the police within probably 4 days. And at the time, I didn't know enough about what was happening. And straight away, they ran a mental health referral. And they did it to Mum as well, because she said she'd witnessed some of the stalking as well. And the police took no notice of us. They were discussing to Derbyshire Police. I mean, the first officer that I spoke to was Police Constable Stone of Derbyshire Police, and he was as thick as a brick, basically. And he ran the mental health referral. He started the whole chain of events off. I personally blame him for it all. Just won't listen to what the victim says, basically.
Correct. Alison, when your targeting started, how did it exhibit itself to you?
And it started with believing that my neighbours were bullying me. A person in the 30s being bullied is just absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. But that's what was also I thought was happening. And then I moved, and it progressed. And then the voices changed into those of people that I know. I'm not going to say who. I admire how brazen you are, Stephen, in using police officers and psychiatrists' names on the radio. I don't dare do it.
Well, they deserve it.
Well, yeah, fair enough, yeah. But yeah, it progressed from there, and then I had a breakdown, and then they started doing the physical things to me. At the start, I was like, well, your technology is nowhere near as good as you think it is, because they had the pain turned down really low, and then they showed me what for and turned it right up. Yeah, so it just progressed from there, and then I started networking and researching, but they were, yeah, it was absolutely horrible. I actually moved twice, not just once, twice in 3 months. I moved twice in 3 months, which is, again, that's mental. having to explain to estate agents, why are you leaving an apartment when you've only lived there for a month and a half? Well, it doesn't bode very well. Yeah, it just progressed from there. I've never had any huge pulses like you have, Stephen. It's all V2K and then physical stuff. At the moment, they seem to be really enjoying going for my ears as much as possible. It's really, really horrible. Yeah, just
Yeah,
absolutely dreadful. But
it's strange how different people get attacked in a different manner. I just got I never got the voice to skull. I just got the directed energy weapon attacks, and Amy picked up laser weapon attacks as well when she did the thermal imaging scan. So I got microwave pulsed electronic shocks and laser weapon attacks, and she also picked up microwave burns, didn't she, under my skin?
she got a mark on your chest that was very
Yeah.
prominent, which is exactly where you were hit once, wasn't it? And
Oh,
it was years ago as
yeah,
well, wasn't it?
the dent that was that was the dent, wasn't it, that she picked up?
Yes, and you
Yeah.
had attacks that were in the side of your head that were physically bleeding. That's
Yes. That was a laser weapon attack. So Amy said. Tim had a look at the photograph as well. He thought it was a laser weapon.
yeah.
I'll tell you,
I would say that
apologies.
was somebody that was totally inexperienced, as it's supposed to be no touch torture.
Yes,
You
yes. It
know?
made five holes in my head. It after it stopped bleeding, it looked as if someone had jabbed me with a sharp pencil.
Well, that's terrible, and that puts you on the ground, and it took you a bit to wake up, didn't it?
That not that one, Frank. It was
Okay.
the microwave pulse attack that did that. That was the really heavy one. That was a massive electronic shock, and that one knocked me off my feet, literally. And I think it did render me unconscious temporarily. And when I regained consciousness, I can remember feeling dizzy, ringing in my ear, blurred vision, and a very, very dry throat. I had difficulty swallowing and breathing, and chest palpitations because it hit me in my solar plexus. It was excruciatingly painful as well.
No, you got checked out after that, correct?
No,
No, you
because
didn't.
after 15 minutes of regaining consciousness, I was fine. All the symptoms just disappeared.
Well, that's good.
Very strange. But
I'll,
I recall Matthew Aaron's testimony, I think, on Ella's show, and he was getting the really heavy ones before he left Vancouver. I think it was in a park at night time. They'd got him surrounded in a park, and they were attacking him in a park in Vancouver. And he said they were life-threatening attacks, electronic shocks. I think he got hit by 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm actually getting really beat up pretty good right now. Close
Sorry.
in. Yeah, they always crowd in around me when I'm trying to do a show, and sometimes they're more invasive than others. Today they're like ridiculous, but
Yeah. I can recall though what Matthew said. He was saying he was getting blurred vision, things like that. It was it mirrored what happened to me with the really large electronic shock.
yes,
Prior to
he
prior
reported.
to that one, I had one on the head as well. 2 days prior to that one, an electronic shock. That wasn't so painful, but the second electronic shock was huge. The power behind it, though, it was phenomenal. It was like being hit by a car when it hit me.
Right.
That sounds horrible. I honestly
Yeah.
don't think I've had anything like that. I know about it. Um, the thing they did to me recently, I think I discussed this the last time we spoke, but I've got like a sort of collection of fond memories, and they're memories of where I've made people laugh. And generally, like when I'm going to bed, if they're attacking me really badly, I'll go to these memories and they just bring a smile to my face and I'll drift off to sleep better. And I was looking for one of these in this collection and it wasn't there. But I knew there was something missing because there must be just too many connections to that memory because it's connected by the fact that I've put them into a little space collection of them all. It's connected to the fact that this memory is from a time when I was studying music at college. It's connected to memories of the tutor that I was talking with at the time. There's too many connections to it. So I was sitting here, well, I think I was laid in bed actually, but I was just like, hang on a minute. I can remember all these ones where I made people laugh in this connection, this collection of memories, but there's one missing. And what was it? And I had to like just sort of spend about 10 to 15 minutes really thinking to the point where I actually got a headache. And I don't think the headache was from my perps. I think it was from me thinking so hard. And eventually I got it back by just joining the dots together. And I was really, I've not experienced that before. And I was really, really shocked. I mean, it sounds something and nothing, but that's one of my fondest memories. And since then, they've been saying, we've been experimenting with your memory and we're going to try and erase every single memory you've got of your dad, who's now dead. And I was just absolutely disgusted with it. I couldn't believe it. But I just don't see how they could possibly completely eradicate memories when there's too many connections to them. I don't see how they could do that.
Oh, they try to break the links. Um, at one point, they said, "Oh, we had to go all the way back to his childhood or whatever to get this memory and link it up." You know, but that's the way memories are put together. You remember things by pictures. You remember things by words, actions. You know, and your fondest memories come back to you. But they will step all over the links and everything else, especially if it's a brand new memory. Your short term memory falls prey to them because it has no links yet.
Yeah, it's like RAM on a computer. Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
So, from there, I think we should go into maybe some of the things that the other TIs are doing in England.
I'm not really sure. Are you, Alison? What anyone else is
Um,
doing is.
I'm not actually, I'm afraid. Since sort of mid last year, I haven't really spoken with that many people. I think the main things are the targeted UK campaigns, Tim's lawsuit. And for me, because of just the lack of communication, I'm not actually aware of any other things going on.
Okay,
Um, well, I'll tell you one thing. I've been invited to speak at an event with Barry in May. Um, it's regarding the dangers of 5G. Well, he said, I'll try and get you a spot to speak, but it's primarily about the dangers, the general dangers, and EHS, because I'm speaking with this EHS charity, so electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Um, so if I get the chance to speak, I will do so, having prepared a lot and trying to sleep well the night before, because I know I'll just be sabotaged. But if I don't, I'm going to go and attend the meeting anyway, because Barry wants to introduce me to some people that might be willing to help with the Ecotor legal case as technical advisor. So I'm going to go to that, and it will be filmed and it'll be put online, and hopefully I'll get a chance to speak. Other than that, Stephen, I can't think of anything else. There probably is, but I'm afraid I've just
Yes.
not spoken with many
Perhaps,
people. So,
yeah, perhaps Mark will be organising a rally again this
yeah,
summer.
yeah.
It's probably, the last one, was it 2020? I think it was after the general election. So hopefully we'll do another rally, perhaps in Downing Street.
Will you go to it if there is one?
Probably, yes, yes, yes. Will
Okay.
you as well? It's
I feel a bit
if
scared to
possible.
do something like that, but if there's a group of people, then yeah, I'd go to that. That last one, I was just at the start of my own situation then, and I
Yes,
didn't fully know what was happening to me, so I've not had the chance to attend one.
Mark did
So
a
yeah,
great
yeah.
speech outside Downing Street, and there were quite a few people there, about 50 victims.
Oh, they hate to hear us speak up. Um,
Yes,
they must have been gritting their teeth inside 10 Downing Street because, you know, they have listening devices all outside around there to catch what everyone is saying, you know.
yes. Yeah, we do need to do some demonstrations, but it's difficult to organise sometimes because it's the numbers, isn't it? Getting people to attend.
That's, that's what it is. Some targets expect you to do everything, and other targets participate, and they make a difference. But some people can't actually come to a demonstration simply
Yes,
because they're uh, in a wheelchair or they're bound to a bed some way.
or
So it's,
scared.
yes,
It's
or scared.
which is which is understandable, especially as many victims have been wrongly sectioned. It's understandable to be scared.
That is a situation that has affected one of the most well known journalists here in the U.S., and that's Romola D. concerning
Yes,
targeted individuals. I mean, this woman next door decided she was a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and that she had all the knowledge necessary to pronounce her mentally ill. And she called the police and had her sectioned. So, and that's happened to Romola twice now. Recently, it has happened again. And I'm not going to go into her personal details, but this time it was on a different level. So this seeps
it's
into our lives and spreads like a cancer, and it's terrible.
it, it's outrageous. It's the psychiatric so-called profession has got a lot to answer for. Ultimately, I believe justice will be served on them in some way or another.
I think that they should be allowed to roam in what they call the general population of a prison because everyone in there has mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters. And when they get pointed out as being the perpetrators of this heinous crime, they'll be destroyed.
Yes, yes. Well, I was listening to one of Matthew Aaron's interviews. He said once the targeting program is exposed to a wider audience, I think he said it could be the death knell for psychiatry because they've wrongly diagnosed so many victims. It's just ridiculous, and they can't produce the evidence, can they? You know, the psychiatrists. It's just an opinion, isn't it? They can't give any scientific proof of a mental illness. It's just ridiculous.
No, the actually you're correct. The only thing they can actually prove is dementia, and that
Mm,
is unfortunately after the person has passed on. Um,
yes, yeah, and
because I
they're
guess
claiming, yeah, the psychiatrists are claiming targeted victims are delusional. Yet, in reality, according to their own DSM guidelines, it is them that's delusional, the psychiatrists. because they are denying a reality. I mean, we know
Well,
that targeting is real.
most certainly is. And it's funny how, it's not funny, it's disgusting, but you can look into the American Psychologist magazine in 1975 and find
Yes.
them endorsing a piece on V2K where a number of different government organizations actually funded it with a grant. And
Yes.
that made the
Yeah.
papers. I have the paper clipping, and
Yes, it's on your website, isn't it?
I believe it is. Yes.
I've directed Tim towards that document.
Did you remind him that there are like thousands more that
Yes, he knows. Yeah, I
that aren't up
specifically
there?
told him about that one though, Frank.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
one that you've just mentioned
Uh,
from around 1970, isn't it?
that's 1974 to be exact, and
Yeah, yeah,
75 it came out in the American Psychologist. But
yes,
those are things
yeah,
I'd like you guys to have over there so that you can spread things around that actually happened in the U.S. And we've had
yes,
distinguished scientists thrown out of the community, their own community, simply because they were researching what is happening to us.
yes.
Disgusting.
I believe Tim intends to sue the Royal College of Psychiatrists eventually. When he's got a bit more time, when some of these court cases have ended, uh, the Royal College of Psychiatrists is on his target list. So all those documents will become useful.
Yeah, we'll make them available for sure.
Yes.
And
They have a lot to answer for, though, don't they?
they certainly do. It's
The
an
fact is, they've
endless
got the
list.
power and they're so arrogant that they're willing to use it. It's disgraceful.
Yes, it is. Well, I think it's getting to be about that time uh, where we should say good night. And I'd like to thank you both very much for spending the time tonight. And I enjoy your company, and I can't express how great it is to have you people on.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank my
Thanks, Frank.
listeners, and I'd like to thank our supporters, and I would like to say good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.